3 families, 73 days, 0 takers. Nobody wanted Duchess and Bear until a retired teacher and his granddaughter walked into a shelter and paid $380 for the 2 cats everyone else gave back. What happened on night 12 changed all 4 of them forever. Nobody warned them about the silence. Not the shelter workers, not the neighbors, not the well-meaning strangers on the internet who had opinions about everything. Nobody warned them that 2 Maine Coons abandoned 3 times could fill a house so completely that you'd forget it was ever empty. Her name was Duchess, his was Bear, 2 Maine Coons found huddled together behind a dumpster on Crescent Street on a Tuesday morning in February, when the temperature had dropped to 19 degrees and the overnight shelter was already at capacity. Duchess was the color of burnt copper, with eyes like amber glass, and a tail so extravagantly fluffy it seemed to belong to a different, more theatrical animal entirely. Bear was darker, deep mahogany with silver streaks threading through his chest, and built like a small bear that had decided, at some point, that dignity was more important than speed. Together, they weighed 58 pounds. Together, they had been abandoned 3 times. Together, they had never once been separated. The first family kept them for 11 days before calling the shelter to say they were too much. The second family lasted 3 weeks, long enough to buy $240 worth of cat furniture that Duchess immediately claimed as her personal kingdom, and Bear immediately ignored in favor of sleeping directly on the $600 couch. The third family returned them on a Sunday afternoon, without explanation, without eye contact, and without the $47 bag of premium food they had taken with them. The shelter director, a woman named Patricia, who had worked in animal rescue for 22 years and thought she had seen everything, wrote in their file, "Bonded pair, non-negotiable, highly intelligent, will outlast you." Nobody took them home. For 73 days, nobody even slowed down in front of Kennel 9. Until Robert. Robert Calloway was 71 years old and had been a high school history teacher for 34 years before retiring. He kept receipts organized in a shoebox by month, still subscribed to 2 print newspapers, and had, in the 16 months since his wife Dorothy had passed, eaten dinner standing at the kitchen counter every single night because sitting at the table alone felt like a geography he hadn't earned. Dorothy had died in March, congestive heart failure, 43 years of marriage. The house held $22,400 in savings he hadn't touched, and a silence that grew louder the longer he lived in it. His granddaughter, Maya, arrived in June. She was 14, quiet in the specific way of someone who had recently decided that being invisible was safer than being seen. Her parents, Robert's son Daniel and his wife, had mentioned carefully that the year had been hard, a best friend who had moved away, a school that felt too large, too indifferent. She carried a journal everywhere and wrote in it constantly and never let anyone read it. "She just needs somewhere to breathe," Daniel had said. Robert understood breathing. He wasn't sure he had been doing much of it himself. It was Maya who found them. She had been sitting at the kitchen table on a Thursday evening, journal open, pen moving slowly, when she turned her laptop toward Robert without saying a word. 2 massive cats staring out from a shelter page, Duchess sitting upright with the composed authority of someone who had been wrongly imprisoned and was awaiting an appeal. Bear sprawled beside her with one enormous paw draped across her back, like he had simply decided she needed anchoring. "They've been there 73 days, said Maya. 3 families gave them back." Robert studied the photo for a long moment. He thought about the counter where he ate standing up, the flowers he no longer bought. "We don't know anything about cats," he said. Maya looked back at her journal. "Neither did the 3 families who returned them," she said quietly. Robert drove to the shelter the next morning alone. He paid the $14 parking fee, walked inside, and asked to see Kennel 9. Patricia didn't soften the introduction. Duchess runs this facility. She has opinions about everything and the patience of someone who has been proven right before. Bear is gentler, but don't mistake that for simple. He watches everything. Together, they eat $195 worth of food a month, premium only. And last week, Duchess somehow opened the door to the supply closet, walked in, and rearranged the toy inventory. We have no idea how she reached the handle. She paused. "They are without question the 2 most extraordinary animals I have personally encountered, and they come as a pair. That is non-negotiable." Robert stood in front of Kennel 9 for a long time. Duchess looked at him with the measured assessment of someone conducting a job interview for a position she had already decided she would fill herself. Bear lifted his head, studied Robert for exactly 4 seconds, and then set his head back down on Duchess's flank. Not dismissive, just unhurried. "What's the adoption fee?" he asked. $380 for the pair. Robert wrote the check without asking for a discount. It was, he thought later, the first money he had spent in 16 months that felt like it was going somewhere. If you're still watching and haven't subscribed yet, I have to be honest, that stings a little. Hit subscribe. You'll want to be here for what comes next. The first 48 hours were, in Patricia's word, educational. Bear disappeared into the space behind the washing machine within 6 minutes of arriving and did not emerge for 2 full days. Robert left a plate of food nearby, $5.20 in premium pâté, gone each morning, and did not comment on it, did not reach in, did not attempt negotiation. Duchess, meanwhile, conducted a thorough survey of the entire house within the first hour, moving from room to room with the brisk efficiency of a property assessor, pausing occasionally to press her nose at something and then move on. She located Dorothy's reading chair, a green velvet armchair in the corner of the living room that nobody had sat in since March, stood in front of it for a long moment, stepped up onto it, turned twice, and settled. She was still there 2 hours later. Robert stood in the doorway and looked at her in Dorothy's chair and did not say anything for a very long time. Maya arrived 2 days later, dropped her bag inside the door, and immediately sat cross-legged on the hallway floor without explanation. No phone, no journal, just sitting back against the wall in the hallway outside the laundry room where Bear was still hiding. She did this every evening, same spot, same stillness, same quiet. Robert passed by on the second night and found her there at 8:30 p.m., eyes closed, simply present. He went to the kitchen, made 2 mugs of hot chocolate, $9.50 for the good tin, the kind Dorothy used to buy, and left one on the floor beside Maya without a word. Maya picked it up without opening her eyes. From behind the washing machine, something shifted in the darkness. On the 4th night at 11:22 p.m., Bear walked out. He didn't announce himself. He walked to where Maya was sitting, stood in front of her for a moment with the quiet gravity of someone who had made a careful decision, and then stepped directly into her lap, all 29 pounds of him. He turned once, settled, and began to purr, a low, resonant sound like a cello string vibrating in an empty room. Maya sat completely still. She didn't reach for him, didn't speak, just let her hands rest lightly on his back and breathed. Robert was watching from the hallway doorway. He didn't say anything. He went back to the kitchen and stood at the counter and found that for the first time in 16 months, the silence didn't feel like something pressing against him from the outside. It felt like something he was inside of, warm, shared. Duchess had her own timeline. For 9 days, she observed. She watched Robert move through the house with his careful routines, the $220 grocery run on Wednesdays, the newspapers stacked by the armchair, the dinner he still ate standing at the counter. On the 10th morning at 6:52 a.m., Duchess walked into the kitchen when Robert was making coffee and sat directly in front of the counter where he stood every evening to eat. She looked at the counter, she looked at him, she looked at the kitchen table, she looked at him again. Robert understood the message. That evening, for the first time in 16 months, he set a place at the kitchen table. He sat down, he ate his dinner seated. Duchess jumped up onto the chair across from him, Dorothy's chair, and watched him eat with the satisfied expression of someone whose work was nearly done. Robert looked at her across the table. "You are very bossy," he said. It was the first full sentence he had spoken inside the house in 3 days. Duchess blinked once, entirely unbothered. Some stories deserve to be shared with someone who would understand them. The night Maya's journal went missing, the one she carried everywhere, the one with 2 years of her life in it, she came downstairs at midnight, pale and frantic and close to tears. Robert was already awake. He helped her search for 40 minutes before they found it, on Dorothy's reading chair beneath Duchess, who had apparently been sleeping on it for hours with the peaceful indifference of someone who had not technically stolen anything and was prepared to argue the point. Maya stood there staring at her cat-flattened journal and then suddenly laughed. It started small and grew until she was laughing properly, fully, the way you laugh when something is both terrible and perfect. Robert watched her and felt something loosen in his chest that had been tight for a very long time. He started laughing too. Bear chose that exact moment to walk in from the hallway, look at both of them laughing in the middle of the night, and sneeze 3 times in rapid succession, which made everything worse. Or better. It was impossible to say.
They had been abandoned 3 times, spent 73 days watching families walk past Kennel 9. They had every reason to not trust anyone who walked through a shelter door, but Duchess saw a man who had stopped sitting at his own kitchen table and decided, with characteristic efficiency, to fix it. And Bear saw a girl who needed somewhere quiet and warm to land, and simply walked into her lap and stayed, on their own terms, in their own time, for $380 and a green velvet chair and a tin of hot chocolate left on a hallway floor. Sometimes the ones nobody wanted are exactly who you needed all along. Is it patience that changes them, or do they change us first? Tell me in the comments.